You were right. Every silver stacker laughed at for 20 years. You were right. This morning, while you slept, JP Morgan and Citi tapped the Federal Reserve for $17 billion in emergency cash because silver hit $16 and their short book detonated. The banks didn't break the stackers. The stackers broke the banks, and the receipt just printed. Today is March 14th, 2026, Friday. Mark this date in blood. Because for years, we sat here and we guessed. We stared at the COMEX open interest. We counted the naked shorts. We said one day, the bullion banks will get caught with their pants down. Today is that day. The body is on the floor. The smoking gun is in their hand. And the fingerprints are all over a $17 billion wire transfer that should never have existed. $17 billion. In one morning, from the Fed's emergency repo window. That isn't a number. That's a confession signed in ink. Let me translate that into your life. Every dollar in your savings account just got diluted by that printing. Every grocery bill you pay next month just got heavier. Every gallon of gas just got more expensive. The Fed didn't print $17 billion to help you. They printed it to bail out the same banks that have been shorting your silver since 1980. You paid for their losses. You always do, until today. But here's where it gets darker. The repo window is not a normal loan desk. It is the emergency room of the banking system. Healthy banks never touch it. Touching it is the walk of shame of Wall Street. So when JP Morgan, HSBC, and Citi line up at dawn the morning after a $5 silver gap and beg the Fed for $17 billion in cash, that isn't liquidity management. That's a margin call. A margin call so violent it cracked the foundation of the too-big-to-fail empire. If you're a silver soldier holding even 1 ounce of physical metal, hit subscribe right now. Because the next 72 hours decide who walks away rich and who walks away broke. The banks just signaled weakness to the entire planet. You are on the winning side of the trade for the first time in your life. Do not look away now. Let me do the math the way Wall Street does it. One COMEX silver contract equals 5,000 ounces. The 4 big U.S. bullion banks are short hundreds of millions of ounces between them. Silver moves up $1, they lose tens of millions. Silver moves up $5 overnight, like it just did. They lose $250 million before their coffee gets cold. Now multiply that across every desk, across every counterparty. That's the crater the Fed just tried to plug with $17 billion of your purchasing power. Connect the dots. Silver gap to $77.16 overnight. The clearinghouse doesn't care about your unrealized loss excuses. The clearinghouse spits out a number at the open and says, pay now or we liquidate your book. The banks looked at their cash reserves. The cash wasn't there. So they grabbed every treasury bond on the shelf, ran to the Fed, and pawned the family jewels for overnight cash. That is technical insolvency. Plain English. The masters of the universe are broke. And the timing. Friday. Banks always die on Friday. Regulators always strike on Friday. They picked the quietest morning of the week, hoping it would slip past CNBC, hoping the screen would scroll right past it. But we noticed. We always notice. The silver soldiers don't sleep, but wait, it gets worse. The Fed can print dollars. The Fed cannot print silver. And right now, 12,177 delivery notices are standing on the COMEX. That's 63.5 million ounces of physical metal demanded in a single month. 8% of annual global mining supply demanded in 30 days from vaults that are bleeding dry. The longs aren't rolling over anymore. They're not taking the cash. They want the metal. Battery manufacturers want the metal. Sovereign wealth funds want the metal. Shanghai wants the metal. And the banks don't have it. So they have to walk into the open market at $77, at $80, at $90, and buy it back to deliver. That isn't supply and demand. That's a forced buyer with a gun to his head. That is rocket fuel under the price. If you're a stacker watching this right now, every ounce in your safe just became the most leveraged trade on earth. Hit subscribe and stay with me because what comes next is the part the banks pray you never figure out. Here's the trap. The Fed prints $17 billion to save the shorts. Those dollars enter the system. They devalue the dollar. Silver priced in dollars goes higher. The shorts lose more. The Fed has to print more. Silver goes higher again. They print again. It is a doom loop, a self-defeating feedback loop with no exit door and no fire escape. Look at China. Look at the BRICS. Look at Shanghai. They saw that repo print this morning. Do you think Beijing is easing up now? They're tightening the screws. They're buying more. They know the U.S. banking shield just cracked open. Every ounce China buys at $77 forces another billion-dollar bailout next week. This isn't a market anymore. This is financial warfare. And the Fed just admitted on tape that it can be hit. The dollar index fell today. In a crisis, the dollar is supposed to rise. It fell. Because the market finally figured out that the dollar is the crisis. $38 trillion in debt, $2 trillion in interest, and now a Fed printing emergency cash to bail out commodity shorts. Smart money is running, not to the dollar, to the metal, and here's the part they don't want you to see. SLV borrow fees collapsed today. The financial press told you that means the squeeze is over. They are lying through their teeth. Borrow fees crash when shorts close. The shorts didn't win. They ran. They looked at $77 silver, the $17 billion repo, the empty vaults, and they surrendered. The last line of defense for the paper price just walked off the battlefield. Now stop. Read this next line twice. The next leg up, the move from $77 to $100, will not be driven by short covering. It will be driven by panic buying from pension funds, sovereigns, and a public that just realized the banks waved the white flag. What does this mean for you? Right now, your dollars are being diluted in real time to bail out the people who shorted your silver. Your purchasing power is being burned to keep zombie banks alive. Your savings account is the fuel for this bailout. And the only lifeboat that cannot be diluted is the metal in your hand. They can print dollars, they can fork Bitcoin, they cannot print Element 47. Here's your 72-hour roadmap. 3 things. Do them. 1. Watch the Monday morning repo print. If it tops $17 billion, the bleeding is accelerating and silver is going to $85 this week. 2. Position only in physical metal or in unencumbered miners. Avoid leverage paper because volatility is about to hit nuclear levels and the paper price will get smashed once before it rips. 3. Avoid the dealer trap. If your local shop charges $10 over spot, that is not gouging, that is the real price. The screen is the lie, the street is the truth. Pay the street. If you're a silver soldier, a stacker, one of the awake, hit subscribe right now. The next 72 hours are the most important window of your financial life. I will be on this channel every morning calling the repo prints live. And if you think that's the end, you haven't seen the worst part yet. The London gold pool collapsed in 1968 when the vaults ran out. We are watching the New York silver pool collapse in 2026. Live, on the tape, in front of our eyes. The mechanism is identical. The hubris is identical. The outcome will be identical. A violent, chaotic repricing of silver to a level where demand finally meets supply. And at current demand, that level isn't $80. It isn't $100. It's whatever number breaks the panic. The pivot didn't come with a press conference. It didn't come with a fancy speech from Powell. It came with a desperate $17 billion wire transfer on the Friday after midweek. That is the pivot. That is the surrender. That is QE infinity and everything. But name. We held the line. We were ridiculed. We were called crazy. We were told silver was a pet rock. Today, the pet rock pawned the family silver of the Federal Reserve to stay alive. We were right. And the next leg up belongs to us. Every ounce, every stacker. Every brother who held when it hurt. This is JonFunds AG. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, share this with every stacker you know, because the wealth transfer of the century just started this morning, and you are sitting on the receiving end of it. In my next video, I'm naming the exact bullion bank that taps the Fed repo window next. I have the short book data. I have the exposure number. I have the date their margin call detonates. It is closer than you think, and when it hits, silver doesn't see $100. It sees $130 overnight. Do not miss it.